Inside the Philadelphia Eagles locker room, two lockers stood side by side, one for Brian Dawkins and one for Weapon X. Technically, they were the same man, but everyone in that building knew the terrifying difference. When game time arrived, a switch flipped, and he transformed into something else entirely. Teammates watched it happen every single week. "You don't feel that, Julie. I'm telling you, you don't feel it." The calm voice turned into a low growl. The smile became a death stare. The man they knew vanished and something dangerous replaced him. I honestly think to this day that Brian truly believes that was who he became whenever he stepped onto the field. Over 16 seasons, Brian Dawkins became a force the football world had never seen before. 1,147 tackles, 37 interceptions, 36 forced fumbles, 26 sacks, and 9 Pro Bowls. He is the only player in history with 25 interceptions, sacks, and forced fumbles. Quarterbacks feared where he was. Receivers feared crossing the middle. Running backs heard his footsteps and held their breath. The truth is, football unlocked a different version of Brian Dawkins. He would say, "Spikes, I am taking his soul. I am going to take his soul. I want to see how bad he really wants to play." From a quiet kid in Jacksonville to the leader of the Eagles' defense to one of the most feared men in NFL history, this is how a split personality created a legend. Long before Weapon X, Brian was known as polite, respectful, and soft-spoken. He attended William M. Raines High School in Jacksonville, Florida. But inside that calm exterior was an incredible amount of raw, untapped energy. He played both football and basketball, winning a Class 3A state basketball championship. On the football field, however, a completely different side of him began to emerge. He practiced harder, hit harder, and played with an intensity that most teenagers simply did not know how to tap into. He had a great example to follow. His older brother, Ralph, was a star running back at Louisville. Brian grew up believing that sports would be his only ticket to college. One minute he was laughing with teammates. The next he was flying downhill like the game was personal. The humble kid off the field became a monster the second that helmet went on. Recruiting, however, was not easy. Despite playing for a powerhouse that produced NFL legends like Harold Carmichael, Dawkins was not a top recruit. His dream was to play for Florida, imagining himself doing the gator chomp in the swamp. But that dream died in one meeting. Florida defensive coordinator Ron Zook told him the offer was gone. The talent was there, but his grades were not. In that moment, Brian realized he had nearly ruined his entire future. He locked in and raised his grades. He did everything right. But by then, most big programs had moved on. Louisville showed interest, but Brian worried it was only because of his brother. South Carolina made an offer, but when he tried to accept it, he could not get anyone to answer. It looked like the opportunity might never come until his best friend stepped in. Patrick Sapp, a high school teammate and top recruit, was being recruited hard by Clemson. During one of those high-pressure recruiting calls, Sapp gave the Clemson coach an ultimatum. "If you want me, you take Brian too. A package deal." Clemson agreed. Years later, Dawkins admitted he had no idea that conversation happened. He thought Clemson chose him on his own merit. Either way, it became the phone call that changed his life. At Clemson, Dawkins proved he belonged almost immediately. 3-year starter at defensive back, 247 career tackles, and 11 interceptions. First-team All-ACC in 1995 and a second-team All-American with 6 interceptions as a senior. He would later be inducted into the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame. The school even created an award in his honor. That is the impact he had. But the NFL was not exactly blown away because scouts were always obsessed with prototypes. And Dawkins simply did not look like one. At the combine, his numbers were solid. Height 5'11", weight 189 pounds, 40-yard dash 4.61, vertical jump 35 inches, bench press 19 reps. Most scouts labeled Dawkins the same way. Tough, smart, but limited upside. Draft boards had him as a mid-round safety, a potential starter, perhaps, but nothing more than that. But one team saw something different: the Philadelphia Eagles. On April 20th, 1996, The Eagles went on the clock in the second round with a compensatory selection they received after losing Seth Joyner and made their move. I just got off the phone with Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are drafting a safety, Brian Dawkins, out of Clemson. He later admitted he had zero clue Philly even had him on their radar. He said the team kept a perfect poker face until he became the fifth safety selected in that year's NFL draft. A 22-year-old rookie stepped into Philly, just trying to figure out life all at once. New city, new team, and a young son to support. On the surface, he looked like a solid, dependable safety, nothing more. But no one realized that hidden inside this quiet second-round pick was something the league couldn't measure. No combine drill could capture the monster they were actually building. In 1996, nobody saw him coming. He started his rookie year as a backup behind Eric Zold. Brian Dawkins' career didn't start with legendary, big-time moments. He started on special teams and the scout squad, waiting for a chance. But people immediately noticed something was different. Months earlier at the Combine, Philly scouting director John Wooten saw it. You'd have thought the kid was already the captain of the DBs. Wooten said he was miles ahead of everyone. By week 2 of his rookie season, everything changed. He earned his first start against Green Bay and racked up 11 tackles. The coaching staff took notice immediately. Just 2 weeks later, head coach Ray Rhodes made it official. Dawkins was the new starting free safety. Once he got the job, he never gave it back. In week 4, his first career interception helped seal the win. In week 5 versus Dallas, he sacked Troy Aikman and forced a fumble that went back for a touchdown. The Eagles finished 10-6, making the playoffs as Dawkins started his first postseason game as a rookie. Entering 1997, defensive coordinator Emmett Thomas kept that entire Eagles secondary intact. Dawkins and hard-hitting Mike Zordich patrolled the middle, with Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor locked in at corner. His 1997 stats were impressive: 75 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 1 touchdown. That score came in December, a 64-yard pick-six off Danny Cannell. It was the first defensive touchdown of his career. Every game, he showed more range and control. He could cover deep, blitz the edge, or fly downhill in run support. Opposing offenses started learning a new rule of thumb: know where number 20 is at all times. Behind the scenes, Dawkins fought battles no one saw. I was putting on a mask every day. I know what that dark place feels like. If you've never faced depression or had those thoughts, the struggle sounds like some kind of made-up fairy tale. It sounds fake, but it's not. It was real in my life. Despite his success, he battled extreme doubt and pressure. After his rookie year, with support from his wife and coach Emmett Thomas, he began to rebuild his confidence. Emmett helped me see what I was capable of, Dawkins later explained. I didn't see myself the way he did. Both the player and the man were growing, but he wasn't a superstar yet. The Eagles ranked 24th in defense. They weren't contenders, and nationally, Brian remained mostly a total mystery. But inside that locker room, something was brewing. In 1998, it was set to explode. Philly was a mess. Coaching drama and a weak roster led to a brutal 3-13 season. Yet, even on a loser, Dawkins stood out. He started 14 games, racking up 55 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a sack. He added a forced fumble despite missing 2 games. Late in the year versus the Giants, he delivered 8 tackles and another forced fumble in a loss. After the season, head coach Ray Rhodes was fired and the franchise decided to hit the reset button. That reset changed everything. In 1999, the Philadelphia Eagles entered a brand new era of football. Andy Reid arrived as coach, Donovan McNabb was drafted as the franchise quarterback, and Jim Johnson took over the defense. But the constant was Brian Dawkins. That summer, Philly signed him to a 3-year, $1.2 to $7 million deal, locking in their secret weapon. Under Johnson, Dawkins flourished because Jim Johnson didn't want a traditional safety. He wanted a weapon. Brian delivered, and his stats immediately exploded. 73 tackles, 4 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles, 1.5 sacks, and another defensive touchdown. He opened the season intercepting passes in 3 straight games. Against Buffalo, he picked off Doug Flutie and also forced a fumble in that same game. Linebacker Jeremiah Trotter said it best. The guy hits like a linebacker. He hurts people. He's knocked guys out. He's knocked himself out. Shoot, he's even knocked us out. By year's end, Dawkins made his first Pro Bowl. It wouldn't be his last. By 2000, the Eagles weren't in rebuilding mode anymore. They finished 11-5, returning to the playoffs for the first time in years. At the center of it all was number 20. By the year 2000, Brian Dawkins was no longer just a Pro Bowl safety. He was becoming something massive, something feared, something that felt truly different. It lacked a name back then, but the Sunday version of him was becoming impossible to ignore. Soon enough, the entire football world found the perfect way to describe him. Alongside veteran stars Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor, the team asked Dawkins to do it all. Shut down tight ends, blitz the edge, patrol center field, and set the tone. He started against the Rams with 8 tackles and 3 breakups. By December, he was picking off 2 passes in a single game against Washington. Then came Week 13 against the Chargers, where he delivered a signature Dawkins highlight. He forced a fumble on the star runner, scooped it up, and sprinted 49 yards for a touchdown. One of the year's biggest defensive plays. During the playoffs, the Eagles crushed Tampa Bay 31-9 in the wild card, then handled the Chicago Bears 33-9. But in the NFC Championship game, Philly's run died in a 24-29 loss against the St. Louis Rams. Another Pro Bowl came, but stats could not capture the change. People were noticing something unique about him now, and his teammates saw it before anyone else. On game day, Brian Dawkins transformed. Cameras caught him in the tunnel screaming, pounding his chest, with his eyes completely locked in on the target. I think that first bear crawl happened at the vet. I was just so incredibly hyped up. I just wanted to crawl out there like a wild animal, like I was ready to eat. So I did it, and the fans went wild. My teammates were looking at me like, man, what is wrong with him? He is just crazy. He was flipping a mental switch. That is when the nickname truly took hold. Weapon X, inspired by the legendary character, Wolverine. I love reading comic books. That is my downtime. I am a sci-fi nerd at heart, you know? Get it? Weapon X is the version of Wolverine before the name. He was basically just a weapon. He could do anything required of him. It fit perfectly. This was more than a label, it was an alter ego. By 2002, that persona reached a new level. We even set up a separate locker for Weapon X, complete with its own nameplate. There was baby powder in there, some hair, gel, and some lotion too. People would ask about the little figurines in my locker. I would just say, look, I am Weapon X now. And that Philly team was loaded. Donovan McNabb in his prime, a veteran secondary, and a defense ranked second in the NFL once again. Then Dawkins delivered one of the most unique seasons in history. In Week 4 against Houston, Weapon X did something no player had ever achieved. In a single game, he notched a sack and an interception, plus a forced fumble, several pass breakups, and a 57-yard touchdown catch on a fake punt. One man, dominating every single phase. They called it the quadrifecta game. It was the first time an NFL player had a sack, an interception, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown catch all at once. That performance was Brian Dawkins in a nutshell. His 2002 stats were absolutely legendary. 91 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 3 sacks, 2 picks, and an offensive score. Philadelphia finished the year 12-4. For the second straight year, they returned to the NFC title game. One win from the Super Bowl. But this time, the ending hurt even more. Tampa Bay walked into the vet and crushed the dream 27-10. Another year, another heartbreak. Something inside Brian Dawkins shifted. He was already a great player, but great just was not enough anymore. By 2003, the change was total. When the team emerged from the tunnel at the vet, fans weren't just waiting for kickoff. They waited for him. The ritual, the intensity, the chest pounding. It felt like a completely different person had taken over his body. Weapon X. Philly now had the league's most feared defense. Coordinator Jim Johnson ran a savage, blitz-heavy system designed to confuse quarterbacks and punish every single mistake. Up front, disruptors like Hugh Douglas and Corey Simon caused total chaos. Jeremiah Trotter brought the attitude at linebacker, while Troy Vincent and the corners locked every receiver down. And in the center of it all was Brian Dawkins, the ultimate chess piece. If you are building a team, he is your safety. Jim Johnson said he could play free, strong, or even corner without ever missing a beat. That offseason, the Eagles backed it up, signing Dawkins to a 6-year, $43 million extension. Injuries slowed him down that year, but whenever he was on the turf, he remained absolutely dominant. Despite the missed time, Philly finished 12-4 to win the NFC East again. And in the playoffs, Dawkins reminded the world exactly who he was. 8 tackles plus a game-changing pick against Brett Favre in the playoffs. Another NFC Championship and another gut-wrenching defeat. 3 years, 3 trips to the edge, 3 crushing losses. Nobody felt that pain more than number 20. By 2004, the Eagles were tired of almost. They went all in, trading for Terrell Owens and building the best roster of the Andy Reid era. The defense looked fresh, too. Sheldon Brown took over for Troy Vincent, joining Leo Shepard to create the league's best young cornerback duo. The unit's heart stayed the same as Dawkins turned in yet another elite season. 69 tackles, 4 picks, 3 sacks, and a Pro Bowl nod. Through it all, Philly just kept on winning. A 13-3 record, another division title, and a first-round bye. This time, everything felt different. NFC Championship, January 23, 2005. Eagles versus Falcons. For 3 years, this wall had stood in their way. Then Weapon X finally took over. He picked off Michael Vick and crushed tight end Alge Crumpler with the most iconic hit ever. A clean, massive collision that set the tone for the entire night. Final score 27-10. Philly was Super Bowl bound. Just look back at that legendary post-game celebration. It was a phenomenal scene. You even had coaches and the late, great Jim Johnson in tears. You could see it in his eyes. "Doc, we did it." Same with Andy Reid. It was a purely emotional moment. Hallelujah. February 6, 2005, in Jacksonville, Florida. Patriots versus Eagles. Dynasty versus destiny. The game was tight, physical, and brutal, exactly as Philly expected. At halftime, 7-7. After 3 quarters, it was 14-14. Dawkins was flying around, trying to lead his team to history. In the 4th, the Patriots landed the knockout blows. A short Corey Dillon touchdown, followed by an Adam Vinatieri field goal. Suddenly, New England led 24-14. McNabb found Greg Lewis for a late score, cutting it to 3 with 2 minutes left. One final drive, one last shot, but the miracle never happened. With 9 seconds left, McNabb threw a season-ending interception. Game over for Dawkins. The loss was devastating, but his legendary impact was undeniable. From second-round pick to franchise legend and the heartbeat of a championship team. Even after that loss, Weapon X was far from finished. Not even close. By the end of 2004, Brian Dawkins already had a Hall of Fame resume, 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros, and a reputation as the most feared safety in the entire league. But the NFL ignores the past, and 2005 was a brutal reminder of that reality. Injuries mounted, the locker room fractured, and then the Terrell Owens drama blew the whole season apart. Tension from the year before turned into pure chaos. During training camp, Owens argued with Andy Reid and was sent home immediately after. Days later, he held that infamous press conference in his driveway, mocking reporters outside his house like it was all a joke. But the real problem ran much deeper. Owens and McNabb weren't even speaking after T.O. publicly bashed him. By mid-season, the team was completely divided again. Then came a fight with Hugh Douglas. More public outbursts followed, and they finally hit the breaking point. The Eagles suspended Owens, then sent him home for good. Just like that, their best weapon and chemistry were gone. Philly went from NFC champs to a 6-10 disaster. But in that chaos, one thing stayed constant: Brian Dawkins. While everything crumbled, Weapon X kept showing up and playing like every single snap was a personal grudge. Then came 2006. At 33 years old, at an age when most safeties are long gone, Brian Dawkins turned in a career year. The Eagles shuffled players around him, eventually pairing him with Sean Considine. Yet, the entire identity of the defense still revolved around Weapon X. That year, he posted 93 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 4 picks, 9 breakups, and a sack. He earned another All-Pro nod as Philly rode his energy into the divisional round before losing to the New Orleans Saints. 2007 tested him differently. Early on Monday Night Football, he suffered a serious neck injury against Washington. For the first time in years, Dawkins missed significant time, sitting out for 5 straight games. It was a reminder that legends aren't invincible. But in 2008, at 35, Dawkins was still making history. Week 5 against Washington, he grabbed his 20th career sack, joining the elite 2020 club. He was one of only 10 players in NFL history to do it. He kept building on another legendary career milestone too, 30 interceptions and 30 forced fumbles for his career, a feat that only he and Charles Tillman had ever achieved. Philly caught fire late, mounting a miraculous run to the NFC Championship game. One final ride, one last playoff push, one last season with Weapon X leading the charge. The Eagles arrived in Glendale to battle the Arizona Cardinals. By halftime, things looked absolutely grim. Arizona led 24-6 behind Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald. But in the third quarter, everything changed. The defense locked in. Donovan McNabb started firing. A touchdown, then another, before a deep bomb to Deshaun Jackson. Early in the fourth, Philly took the lead. After trailing by 18, they were ahead in the NFC title game. For a brief moment, it felt like destiny. Then Kurt Warner fired back. Once again, the Eagles were right there, only to fall short. For Weapon X, it was the beginning of the end. That following offseason, contract talks hit a wall. The Eagles decided it was time to get younger. After 13 seasons, Brian Dawkins, the franchise's heart and soul, was told to move on. But another team was about to see what Philly had known for over a decade. With a helmet on, Weapon X was still dangerous. Denver was a franchise in transition. New coach Josh McDaniels had a talented but shaky defense and no real identity. They had stars like Champ Bailey and Elvis Dumervil, but they lacked a true tone setter. So, they gave Dawkins a 5-year, $17 million deal, asking a 35-year-old safety to fix their culture. He did it instantly. He started every game, racking up 116 tackles, his highest total in 5 years. He added 11 pass deflections, 2 picks, and a forced fumble. Against Peyton Manning in Week 14, Dawkins was classic. 10 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions in a single afternoon. That year, he made another Pro Bowl and was named first-team safety on the NFL's 2000s All-Decade team beside Ed Reed. One of the most emotional moments came late that year, during Week 16. Back in Philly wearing Broncos colors, Dawkins ran onto the field at Lincoln Financial. The crowd didn't boo. They gave him a standing ovation because even in another uniform, he was still their guy. That is the only time in my career I skipped warm-ups because I simply could not stop crying. But in 2010, reality started to sink in. The body that played with reckless abandon for over a decade finally began to push back. Knee injuries cost him 5 games. For the first time, Dawkins looked human. Neck issues sidelined him later, and recovery took longer than ever. Still, during Denver's surprise playoff run with Tim Tebow, Dawkins was the veteran voice holding that locker room together. After 2011, he knew it was time. 16 NFL seasons, 9 Pro Bowls, and one of the most feared defenders the league has ever witnessed. In April 2012, Brian Dawkins officially retired. Weapon X was finished. 6 years later, he became a first-ballot Pro Football Hall of Famer. 37 interceptions, 36 forced fumbles, and 1,147 tackles. The most ever for a safety, 26 sacks, and 153 pass deflections. 5 first-team All-Pros and the All-Decade team. He remains the only player with 25 picks, 25 fumbles, and 25 sacks. Even after retiring, his impact continued. The Eagles brought him back as a football operations executive. In 2018, he finally earned a Super Bowl ring as part of the organization he helped define. No one played safety like Brian Dawkins. He could blitz like a linebacker, cover like a corner, and hit like a train. In 1999, he became the first to record a sack, pick, forced fumble, and touchdown in one game. It was a perfect snapshot of his complete game. Brian Dawkins wasn't just another great player. He was a leader, a presence, a force. The quiet man off the field, the warrior known as Weapon X on it, and one of the most respected safeties to ever play the game. If you enjoyed this video, stick with Blitz.